Hello and welcome. I'm Karen Roth, FI25 President of the Society of Women Engineers, and I'm here with Catherine Hunt-Ryan, who just finished up her incredible keynote on Engineered by Women at SWE's annual conference. Catherine is the president of Bechtel's manufacturing and technology business. And Catherine, I think my favorite part of your keynote was just talking about the depth of impact of what we're looking to for the future and why women need to be there and present for all of it.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It was such an honor to be part of that. And I look forward to our talk this morning.
Excellent. So during Catherine's keynote, audience members submitted questions to us live through the WE24 mobile app. So we're going to do a short Q&A to make sure that everyone can hear all these questions, and we got even more questions answered. And so if you missed Catherine's keynote, please make sure you go and watch that first. We've got you covered. Just head to SWE's Advanced Learning Center, and that's where we're posting all the content for conference in order to be able to watch. It's at advancedlearning.swe.org. And so with that, let's get started.
Let's go.
All right. See, we've got all of the questions that came in. So first question. Have you battled stereotypes from others and your inner critic as a woman in construction?
None at all. None. I'm kidding. No. It shouldn't be a funny matter, but no, I have personally had those experiences. But I can honestly say that at least half of the feelings of whether it be inadequacy or I'm not good enough or this is too much for me, probably half of them have come from myself. And we talk a lot about things like imposter syndrome and how to build your confidence and your skill sets, of course, to be able to tackle things. But I can honestly say that in my career, that at least half of that feeling of, or is this right for me, has been probably brought on by my own concerns or anxiety or feeling of inadequacy. And that's something we all have, whether you're, regardless of what discipline you're in or what arena you're in, is working on that imposter syndrome. But I will say that, the construction, as we talked about this morning, construction and a lot of engineering, it has been a male-dominated industry. And so it can produce at times, whether it's intentional or not, it can produce a feeling of bias. And it can produce a lack of an experience of working with women and knowing how and when to communicate and creating that environment that's really, I'll say, ripe for inclusion. So I have experienced it. Times I will say when it's been the most direct or the most abrupt, has also been the times where it got me the most angry, and it drove me to drive, to create a different response, maybe for my individual situation, but more for, I don't want that to happen to someone else, or I don't want that to my other colleagues to have that type of experience. So if there was any advice I would give on that is on the first 50% side of it, be kind to yourself. It's okay not to know or to think that you have the solutions or the answers. Work on your inner imposter syndrome. But on the second part, when you encounter adversity, when you encounter bias or things that make you angry, upset, or unmotivated, change it. If not for yourself, change it for those that come behind you.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the hardest parts is, when it comes out when you're not expecting it, like, how do you respond on the fly and doing that and making sure that you are standing strong in your stance so it won't happen again. So making sure that you're prepared with some good, witty answers to redirect and make sure that it's clear that that was not acceptable.
Exactly. Although I will say that you're 100% right that some things they just need to be responded or need to be tackled quickly. Someone that I work with has given me really good advice too, which he says, when you're frustrated, first count to 10.
Mm-hmm.
And then if that doesn't work, count to 20.
Mm-hmm.
And then if that doesn't work, keep on counting. Because sometimes you do need to process, you do need to collect more input, you do need to put things into perspective and then kind of, simmer down and then respond.
Absolutely.
I count a lot.
sometimes that's what you need to do on a daily basis. I count a lot because I have a 4-year-old.
Yeah, there's lots of applications to counting in life. Yes.
So we know that construction needs women, but what barriers are in place preventing accessibility to women? Is the construction industry really ready and able to support the needs of women?
That's a great question. I think I would tackle it in maybe a classic engineering approach of like, well, let's get down to the various categories of what we're talking about for construction. In the field for field professional staff, whether they be field engineers, procurement, construction supervision, right now there is still majority in the U.S. at least is majority men who are in those roles. And so some of the obstacles have been, how do you get to a project site? How do you have accommodations and things that can be more conducive for women? I will say in particular on the craft professional side that we talked about this morning, currently in the U.S., only 4% of the total craft professional population is women. And in Bechtel, we have more than 8% on our different projects. But there's some of the obstacles to, I'll say, to participation are they're kind of frustratingly simple in the sense of they are having, proper toilet accommodations for women and men, accommodations that are locked or that are separate by gender. They are having lactation stations on construction sites. They are having, potentially having different timing or work timing or schedules in order to accommodate, the drop off of children or some other responsibilities that women more often have, I'd say, than men. So there are some things that are really making progress in terms of the barriers and just the accessibility. But if I were to leave our audience with one thing, so much of the barrier is also even knowing. It's the awareness that knowing that there is a very, very attractive opportunity and career in construction for women, whether that's in the craft professional side, the field professionals, or otherwise. It's kind of decoding, what does that look like? How could I potentially fit in? It's not lugging around 50-pound weights like it might have been several years ago, but what does it look like for me and how could I potentially fit in?
I love that. One of my really good friends is working on a construction site right now and she loves it. And so she's like, all I need is just a space to go to the bathroom. But they were trying to encourage her to go back to the office because they wanted to use more for financial background for some of the office projects. And she's like, no, this is where I want to be. I want to be there watching the building go up, watching my project actually be created and all of that. Like, I don't want to miss this opportunity. And so she's so grateful that she's able to be there and part of the thing that she's engineering every day.
No, it is really amazing. If you just step way back and you talk about what are some of the things that, maybe, and this is probably my own bias, but maybe what are some of the things that women oftentimes really appreciate? It's like we love to multitask, and we kind of like to multitask. I really like to see the impact, kind of the quick impact of whatever actions are taken. You go to a construction site and you see progress like literally unfolding before you. So the time between, action and reaction or decision and build, it's minutes or it's hours or days, which is pretty amazing.
She's working on scheduling right now. And I think that's probably the most ultimate multitasking function ever of keeping everything moving. So how can we get women into the craft and engineering workforce earlier? What should we be doing all the way back to secondary education to really better recruit and make sure that people see themselves there?
Well, it's the way you ask that question is part of the answer, which is to start and go back to the very early days of education. It is there's a phenomenal author, Andrea Beatty, who has written The Rosie Revere Engineer and Ida Peck Architect, and a series of books. I think about how when I was younger, we had, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 books that were talking about STEM and engineering and construction, and now we have dozens, and many of them feature women or girls in them. So I think that it does go way back to primary education to increase that awareness of what careers can be like, particularly in high school. And for those that choose to go to college, it's also about kind of, again, debunking or decoding what do these careers look like? It's about finding sources of inspiration, getting them in the high schools, getting them in the trade schools, so that people can say, I see myself in that person. I may have not imagined myself as a welder before, but now I see someone who looks like me, who had a similar background to me. That is so inspiring. So that's, I think, what a huge effort of what we need to do. We're working on that as a company, whether it's in terms of getting involved in STEM programs in the high schools and in the grade schools and the places that we work. But it's going to take a lot of effort to really bring that familiarity. And then once the women are brought into the field, it's about retaining and developing the people who are there to become the next ambassadors for the program.
I'm the proud owner of several of those books that you just mentioned. My husband keeps reminding me that the girls can be whatever they want to be when they grow up. They don't have to be engineers. And I'm like, well, I can subtly bring her engineering books back to the top of the book pile every time she says, want to be a policeman or a fireman or something like that. All right, it's time to bring those engineering books all the way back up to the top in just a very subtle manner.
She's probably not organizing her bookshelf, but she may. But, there's opportunities to reorganize and prioritize.
Make sure they're the ones beside her at night, which takes a little glance, a little subtle influence.
Yep.
Given your extensive leadership in the manufacturing and technology sectors, what do you think are the most critical innovations or technologies that will shape the future of the industry, especially in energy and infrastructure?
I love this question. We only have a couple of minutes, but I'd like to talk for a couple of days on this if we could, and then recruit people into solving your problem.
You'll have to come back for another session next year.
Exactly. We'll set up a booth and find out how other people are looking to solve this challenge. But in terms of what I'm particularly passionate about and where I see that there's a lot of potential, specifically, I'll say in manufacturing and technology, and the built environment that is necessary to feed technology. So semiconductors, data centers, generative AI, battery production, things of that nature. I see that there is such a strong need for two things. One is really comprehensive thinking around the whole ecosystem. So how does something work from a power perspective, from a data perspective? And so there's more, if you will, multidisciplinary thinking that is required to generate these solutions. The solving or moving into advanced manufacturing, again, it's no longer a siloed or kind of like a single sport. You really need to work across multiple disciplines in order to solve those challenges. The second thing I would say is that the underlying engineering and construction industries that are serving advanced manufacturing, they have to change and to be able to be agile and adapt, because the underlying technology is rapidly changing. Like the whole, you think about the whole nature of technology is that it's changing to be the faster, better, smarter, technology evolution. And so the built environment from an engineering and construction perspective has to accommodate, or has to at minimum keep up with that pace of change. Mm-hmm. And that can be really hard from an engineering perspective, where oftentimes you might think about, okay, I need to have certain things and then set them and then move on, where change can be disruptive. Mm-hmm. But in really advancing the industry for advanced tech and for manufacturing, designing, constructing with the lens of how to be most agile, I think there's a tremendous opportunity for our people here and for others.
Absolutely. I love that as our last question. It looks like we're almost out of time, Catherine. Thank you so much for sharing your story and everything that it means about. I so love that the idea of these large construction projects really are about together we rise, because with each part of the system isn't working together, then we're not building what we need for tomorrow. Do you have any last closing thoughts before we wrap up?
My only closing thought is particularly for those of you out there that may be tuning in or listening and saying, I never thought that construction was a place for me, or that the built environment was a place for me. I hope that at least you've taken away and asked a few more questions, because the built environment, designing and building the structures of the future, has a place for you, not just because we want to, but because it's an imperative in order to build our future. So I hope it's a message of empowerment, and we've brought down the barrier just a little bit for you to gain more entry and access.
I think absolutely. So thank you so much. And thank you to our SWE community watching this after the conference. Be sure to head to SWE's Advanced Learning Center at advancedlearning.swe.org to find Catherine's full keynote presentation on demand, as well as all the other conference material we recorded here. So I'm Karen Roth, live at WE24, and we'll see you tomorrow for one more Q&A with our closing keynote, Shelley Knus of Cummins Inc.